saying the gunman, quote, came there to kill everybody in that building, period. 26 people dead. The victims from just 18 months old to 77 years old. 8 members of one family among the dead. Authorities revealing the gunman had several weapons, including an assault rifle. The FBI tonight with a possible motive, threatening text messages to a family member. The phone call to his father while trying to escape. And his discharge from the military, his violent past. Also tonight, the heroes who jumped in to help. Our interview with Johnny Langendorf, who was driving the pickup truck, chasing the suspect down the road. Tonight, the FBI has just given him his phone back, and he shows us the video of that final encounter with the suspect. President Trump tonight weighing in from overseas, calling the killer, quote, deranged, and insisting this isn't a guns situation. Also tonight, Senator Rand Paul attacked outside his home. His injuries now more serious than first reported. And the damaging storms hitting a significant part of this country. A confirmed EF2 on the ground for more than an hour. Ginger Z with the big change coming to the east.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Sutherland Springs, Texas.
Good evening tonight from Sutherland Springs, the scene of unspeakable horror here, this time at a church. Worshippers gunned down during Sunday services. It is the deadliest mass shooting in Texas history. And it comes just 35 days after Las Vegas. And if you look behind me tonight, you can see the massive presence. Federal authorities, the FBI, local authorities, all here on the scene. This is the back side of the church. The front tonight, they have cordoned off. This evening, the FBI truck stands in front of the First Baptist Church, where, of course, 26 lives were lost in a hail of bullets. The youngest, just a year and a half old, about half of the victims were children. The pastor and his wife here losing their own 14-year-old daughter. The shooter speeding away, Good Samaritans chasing him. Ending in this field, it's believed the gunman shot himself. This is now the deadliest attack on a church in U.S. history. In fact, 3 of the deadliest mass shootings in this country, Orlando, Las Vegas, and now here in Texas, all happening in just the last year and a half. Tonight, you will hear from the heroes, the man who took on the suspect in that parking lot. You'll also hear my interview with the driver who chased the suspect until his end. But we begin here with ABC's Matt Gutman, also here in Texas.
Tonight, squads of FBI agents combing the scene as the pin-dot-sized town of Sutherland Springs, Texas, shuddering under the loss in the deadliest mass shooting in Texas history.
One thing everybody wants to know is why did this happen?
Shortly after 11 a.m. Sunday morning, Devin Kelly, armed with a military-style rifle and 2 handguns, parked at this gas station and crossed the street to the First Baptist Church. At 11:20 a.m., death barged into the church service. Kelly murdering his way to the front of the shoebox-sized church, seen here in video of past services with those tightly packed pews.
Stand up for Jesus.
And then shooting his way back out.
There was dozens of rounds.
Which means he must have had time to reload.
Oh, yeah.
Almost no one was spared. Police were on their way, but neighbors were already there.
A local resident grabbed his rifle and engaged that suspect.
That citizen, Stephen Williford, hitting Kelly. Williford then got more help from another citizen, Johnny Langendorf.
He said chase him, and so that's what I did. I just chased him.
Jolting down a country road at over 90 miles an hour, during which police say the shooter called his father.
The suspect used his cell phone to notify his father that he had been shot and didn't think he was going to make it.
He then lost control, crashed into a ditch where police believe he shot himself.
Helicopters in route.
He left behind a slaughterhouse. You can see first responders working on the wounded, and under that yellow tarp,
there's a dead body right there.
Neighbor David Casillas was there minutes later, weeping as he filmed.
I've seen family members coming out of the church, you know what I mean, with blood on their arms, you know what I mean, and on their clothes, and they couldn't even talk, you know what I mean. They couldn't say nothing.
The victims ranging from just 18 months to 77 years old.
When you see babies, young children, I mean, that gets to you.
Police say up to 14 children in all, including Pastor Frank Pomeroy's 14-year-old daughter, Annabelle.
We lost more than Belle yesterday. And one thing that gives me a sliver of encouragement is the fact that Belle was surrounded yesterday by her church family that she loved fiercely.
Among them, members of a now decimated church youth group.
5 of them
gone.
Yeah, I know. It's heartbreaking. That church is my family. And there's so many that are gone. It hurts so much.
Matt Gupman with us live here tonight in Texas. And Matt, with 26 people killed here, that's really a substantial portion of this entire town.
That's right, David. That's the equivalent of 10% of the entire town's population killed or wounded in that church behind me. And tonight I spoke to a pastor who said that before they can even begin grieving, first they have to bury the dead. And because there are several families facing multiple funerals, the community is coming together to help them pay for it. David.
Matt Gupman leading us off tonight. And Matt, as you know, the death toll might have been even higher here had there not been that neighbor who tried to take down the shooter in the parking lot in front of the church. That neighbor is Stephen Williford. He heard the gunfire in the church from his own home, and tonight, his very emotional account of why he was moved to act.
All I want to stress today is the people at that church. They're friends of mine, their family. And every time I heard a shot, I knew that that probably represented a life. I was scared to death. I was. I was scared for me, and I was scared for every one of them, and I was scared for my own family that just lived less than a block away. I'm no hero. I am not. I think my God, my Lord, protected me and gave me the skills to do what needed to be done. And I just wish I could have gotten there faster, but I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening.
Stephen Williford tonight, and when the gunman took off from the scene here at the church in his vehicle, Stephen then jumped into a pickup truck at that intersection. He told the driver, Johnny Langendorf, to chase after him, and they did. Tonight, we've learned the FBI has just given Johnny his phone back with the video he took on that phone when this ended about 12 miles from here with the suspect dead. And just a short time ago, Johnny showed me the video on his phone. So he jumps in the other side.
Yes.
Johnny Langendorf was driving his pickup truck home when he came to that intersection in front of the church. He witnessed that hero neighbor trying to take the suspect down in the parking lot, both of them aiming at one another. He jumps into your truck, Johnny, and what does he say to you?
He says he just shot up the church, chase him, follow him. I said, let's go.
They travel about a dozen miles chasing the suspect, speeds of 90 miles per hour in and out of traffic. And inside Johnny's truck, the hero neighbor who tried to take the gunman down at the scene, now describing what he saw.
He was worried about his friends. He's like, don't let him get away. I wasn't going to let him get away.
So you're on the phone as you're driving to try to keep up with this guy?
Yes.
Calling 911?
Yes.
Did you have any idea at that point it was more than 20 people?
No, I didn't have a clue what it was. I mean, he's telling me this as he's getting in my truck. There's no thinking about that. You just do.
Tonight, inside his pickup, the cell phone the FBI has just given back to Johnny. On that phone, he recorded the final moments on that roadway. The suspect driving over the left-hand side of the highway. They did not know if he was dead or alive. So you can see the police moving in right there.
Yes. There was no clear sight from where I had to be for traffic. Hasn't got out and run or nothing.
That's when you guys don't realize whether he's dead or alive.
Correct.
They would find him over the side of that highway inside his vehicle, dead. But not after killing so many in this community. Among them, 3 generations of one Texas family, the Holcombs. Brian Holcomb, an associate pastor at the church, was guest speaker that morning. Here together with his wife of 4 decades, Carla Holcomb, also killed in that church. Brian and Carla's son, John, right there on the right, survived the shooting. But Crystal Holcomb, who was 8 months pregnant, did not. 3 of their 5 children were killed, along with their unborn child. In all, 8 members of the same family. And tonight, so many still fighting for their lives here. 5-year-old Rylan Ward rushed to a San Antonio hospital in the moments after the carnage. His aunt setting up this GoFundMe page. Rylan was shot multiple times. His stepmother and 2 sisters did not survive. And tonight, the other heroes here, the volunteer firefighters, the EMTs, and the ER doctors at Conley Memorial. They received 8 of the victims in this ER.
correct.
Some of these victims had multiple gunshot wounds.
That's correct.
Abdomen, extremities.
That's correct.
Here in this community tonight, everyone knows about half of the victims were children. There's been a lot of talk about how many of the victims were children.
Yes.
And you saw some of that yourself.
Yes, we did.
That's not easy for this team.
It's not easy, and I'm sure, some of the team members will have difficulty in the long term, and there's been pastors and other counseling folks to help out with those members. But it's always difficult when you're dealing with children in these situations. But they did fantastic. They really did. The team really held together well, and I was impressed.
And you heard me mention that 5-year-old a moment ago. Well, back in that San Antonio hospital tonight, 5-year-old Ryland's family now tells us he is in stable condition. And of course, we're all thinking about that little 5-year-old tonight. We turn next, though, to the gunman and the questions at this hour. Why was he allowed to obtain that arsenal? The image of a troubled young man now emerging this evening, discharged from the Air Force after a domestic assault conviction, and recently posting this photo of a semi-automatic rifle on his Facebook page. Here's ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas tonight.
Tonight, law enforcement officials have now viewed the video of the massacre. And one of them tells ABC News there's little doubt the gunman came to the church to kill everyone in that building, period, and called him a horrible monster. That stark assessment, as police today said the genesis of the killing spree was rooted in a domestic dispute. The suspect apparently hunting his mother-in-law.
The suspect's mother-in-law attended this church. We know that she had received threatening texts from him.
Authorities say Kelly showed up with a bulletproof vest and a mask with a skull pictured on it. And the evidence is mounting that for Devin Kelly, violence had been a family affair. He was discharged from the Air Force in 2014 after serving a 1-year sentence for assaulting his first wife and his infant stepson. Military records show he hit the child in the head with enough force to produce death or grievous bodily harm. In theory, the domestic abuse charges should bar someone from buying guns.
They would be prohibited from possessing or purchasing firearms.
And tonight, the U.S. Air Force admitting they failed to pass along the information that would have prevented Kelly from obtaining the murder weapon.
So let's drill down on that, Pierre. Pierre's with us live tonight. More on that late word from the military that they didn't forward information about his military crimes that would have prevented him from obtaining his weapons. A law enforcement source saying it was an administrative error, Pierre?
Yes, David, the Air Force failed to pass along that information to the FBI. And now the military has launched an investigation to determine why. David?
Pierre Thomas with us tonight. Pierre, thank you. President Trump sending his condolences to the victims of the church shooting here in Texas from Tokyo tonight. The first stop on his 13-day tour of Asia, saying it is not a guns situation, but a mental health problem at the highest level. And tonight, a move by President Trump just weeks after his inauguration is now taking on new scrutiny. He signed a measure making it easier for some people with mental illness to buy a gun. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega traveling with the president.
The deadliest mass shooting at an American church overshadowing President Trump's first trip to Asia.
Who would ever think a thing like this could happen?
At a joint press conference with Japan's prime minister, the president was asked which policies he would support to prevent mass shootings. His response?
Mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual. A lot of problems over a long period of time.
But shortly after the president took office, he signed a measure rolling back a regulation that made it harder for some people with mental illnesses to purchase guns. Critics said the rule, which affected about 75,000 people, violated the Second Amendment. In Tokyo, the president said now is not the time to talk about gun control.
This isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse. But this is a mental health problem at the highest level.
Too soon. He said the same thing in the wake of last month's Las Vegas massacre, despite his immediate call for changes in immigration policy in the wake of last week's truck rampage in New York City. Hours after that attack, he tweeted, "I have just ordered Homeland Security to step up our already extreme vetting program."
Cecilia Vega with us live tonight from Seoul, the president's next stop. And so far, as you reported there, Cecilia, this shooting here overshadowing his trip where he now has to deal with gun violence here at home and what to do with North Korea while abroad. And Cecilia, you were telling us that during the 13-day trip, he is expected to meet with Vladimir Putin?
David, that meeting is expected to happen in Vietnam. President Trump told reporters on Air Force One he wants Putin's help on North Korea. White House aides say that the threat from Pyongyang will be the primary focus of that conversation, David.
Cecilia Vega traveling with the president tonight from Seoul. Cecilia, thank you. Next tonight here at home, severe weather, the tornado, and the big chill, a 20-degree drop coming to the east. Several reported tornadoes, in fact, hitting the heartland. A confirmed EF2 in Portland, Indiana. Winds up to 134 miles per hour, and that tornado was on the ground for more than an hour. Homes and farms damaged, at least 8 people hurt in Salina, Ohio. So let's get to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee tonight tracking it all. Ginger?
David, a serious helping of cold is about to come at you thanks to that jet stream dipping. Places like Minneapolis, for example, by Friday morning seeing their coldest air since last March. 15 in Minneapolis, single digits in Duluth. These are actual air temperatures. Detroit is going to see their first freeze of the season about 2 weeks late. New York and Philadelphia both will be sub-freezing by Saturday morning. David?
Ginger Zee tracking the severe weather for us tonight. Ginger, thank you. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Monday from Texas. The fraternity death under investigation. We do have new developments. The 20-year-old student found dead at an off-campus party. School officials tonight announcing a major decision. Also, Senator Rand Paul attacked by a neighbor outside his home. There is news tonight about his condition, and the attack was worse than first reported. Details after the break. And breaking developments, the manhunt for 2 dangerous prisoners escaping from the courthouse. Desperate search at this hour. A lot more news ahead. To the index of other news, the manhunt in Palo Alto, California tonight. Authorities searching for 2 escaped prisoners. The inmates facing armed robbery charges, running from the courthouse. Police say their escape was planned. Getaway vehicles were waiting. Both men considered dangerous tonight. New developments in the fraternity death at Florida State University. Police say pledge Andrew Coffey was found dead at an off-campus party. Authorities believe his death is alcohol-related. The school's president tonight suspending all fraternities and sororities indefinitely. And the burning car rescue in Brea, California. 5 police officers rushing to save a 66-year-old driver, his car in flames. The officers pulling him free, firefighters battling the flames, the driver injured, officers suffering minor burns. When we come back here tonight, the one thing you hear over and over again in this Texas town.
What an incredible honor it was for me to be able to perform for the troops in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The men and women who serve and protect our country really are the best of the best. So please, please join me today in thanking a proud veteran.
DAV honors the service and sacrifices of our nation's veterans.
I am a veteran. I lost both legs in Vietnam.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My victory was getting my benefits and a good education.
DAV helps veterans of every generation.
Finally tonight here, this is a small community, just a few hundred people, and church is family. Today, 26 more crosses were put into the ground, 26 more victims of a mass shooting. Mothers and fathers, children and grandchildren, all who lost their lives when their prayers inside this church in Sutherland Springs were brutally interrupted. Here, church is family, the pastor's wife.
Our church was not comprised of members or parishioners. We were a very close family. We ate together, we laughed together, we cried together, and we worshiped together.
But in this small town tonight, holding each other up, just as Johnny Langendorf told us today.
It's devastating. It's a tough blow to anyone involved, the whole community. I mean,